Thanks for tuning into this episode of Through Jeremiah's Eyes. Today I'm joined by one of, if not my most biggest influence since coming to school here at NCAT, who is also one of my biggest mentors as well. Today we are going to discuss purpose and being able to pursue our purpose no matter what path we take or what our initial plans are, because purpose or perfect isn't the plan, purpose is. So, Miss Franklin, if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining.
Good afternoon. My name is Brittany Franklin, and I currently serve as the Assistant Director in the Honors Program here at A&T and also the Coordinator for Dowdy. But I am also a mother and a wife, and so those are two other main roles that I serve in my daily life.
Well, thank you for joining me and spending the time to be able to have this conversation on this podcast. But just to kick things off, when you were a kid in elementary school specifically, what did you want to always be when you wanted to grow up?
So as a child, I was going to be a famous gymnast. So Dominique Dawes was my inspiration. And I've been doing gymnastics since I was like probably 2 or 3 years old, well into high school. So that was always my dream. I was going to go into the Olympics, and I was just going to be like the next Dominique Dawes.
See, you learn a new thing every day. No. Did it change as you grew up or like progressed through high school?
It did. So when I was about 10, I competed at the state level here in North Carolina, and ended up actually getting the second highest score of all 200 girls that were there. So like,
that's crazy.
It was really like a really big moment for me. But what happened, I think, was that I trained for a really long time to go to that competition. And after I competed and won, they bumped me up like 2 levels. And then they immediately started throwing me into competitions where I just wasn't prepared. So I was going to these competitions and I was bombing. And so it really was kind of defeating in my spirit. And I found myself starting to kind of fall back from wanting to do gymnastics.
And like not enjoy it as much?
I didn't enjoy it as much because I felt like I wasn't prepared, and I'm a person that is all about preparation, even as a child. I remember that. And so, it just kind of took something out of me. I was constantly competing, and I wasn't really enjoying it the same. So I would say like early middle school, I found myself starting to kind of pull back from gymnastics as much. And it ended up being that I transitioned into cheering. I started cheerleading in 8th grade. And so I was able to incorporate a lot of what I was doing into that, but it changed the dynamics of what I wanted to do in life. Like I didn't have that dream anymore of being, a famous Olympian.
Do you ever think back now and wonder like, what if I continue doing this, or if I continue doing gymnastics, or if I continue doing cheering and all that type of stuff?
Not as much, honestly. I found ways even through college that it was something that I was very skilled at, I was good at. But it wasn't something that I saw being like my purpose or something that I was going to pursue career-wise. Like
long-term?
Like long-term. It started to be something that it was kind of like something that relieved me of my stress, or it was like a break from whatever else I was going on. So like in college, I was on a dance team. Like I said, I did cheerleading through middle and high school. So I was still able to incorporate that into my life, but it wasn't something that I saw as something that I was going to pursue long-term in my life anymore.
What did you want to do long-term?
So there was a period in life that I thought I was going to be an interior designer as well. And a fashion designer too, for like a short minute. I used to make clothes. I used to take like my old jeans or old shirts and stuff, and I would make clothes for my dolls. So at one point I thought I was going to be an interior designer. And then I started liking to get into, fashion designing. And then I thought I was going to get into interior design because my mom, I used to go with her all the time, like shopping and doing stuff for the house and decorating. So I started thinking that was something I was going to do as well. And that didn't last very long.
Did you like going to IKEA?
So, I was in college before I went to IKEA before. And me and actually my friend, we're from really small towns here in North Carolina. And we drove up to, I think, is it Woodbridge, Virginia? Wherever the IKEA is. And we bought furniture for our first apartment when we were going into our junior year in college. So I had never been to IKEA before.
IKEA is different. IKEA, they have absolutely everything.
It does, yes.
I love going there and just like walking around and seeing all like the different setups and everything that they have. It's so expensive, but at the same time, it's cool to look at.
Yes, now like I can do like a home goods and really anything in all honesty. I just love being, because I have a house and I like to decorate still a little bit, but I just love being in that environment of like stuff, putting stuff together still. Yeah, that's a hobby.
So you still like doing that now to this day?
I do, but I will tell you, I'm a Libra and we have very unbalanced scales. And so making decisions, sometimes it takes us a while. Like, it's like, what color pattern? Should I do stripes? Should I do solids? So I like to put things together, but it takes me a little bit of time with stuff like that I'm very particular about.
I feel like I'm like the same way. Or like, for at least like, so one of my future goals as well, on like everything else I do, I want to be able to get a real estate license and then be able to like flip houses. So I want to be able to take a rundown house or an undervalued house and then pretty much do like interior design and redesign it and everything.
Yes.
And then flip it. But I'm that same way. I'm very indecisive on a whole bunch of stuff.
Now, do you watch HGTV?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I love stuff like that. I every day, like, even though I have a house and everything, I daily get emails. I never took myself off the list because I love looking at houses and the structures. And I love to see people who can like flip houses. Like, all of that stuff just intrigues me. Yeah.
Same here. And I used to, at least when I was younger, I wanted to be a vet. But even before that, I wanted to be an architect. But then I like being a vet more. But it's always been something that's like interesting and cool. So it's always been in the back of my head, but still going with the vet stuff. But that just kind of came up with
I think you're going to just be eclectic. You're just going to be able to be a Renaissance man and dabble in everything.
That's like doing a whole bunch of different stuff. How do you think that you would be different today if everything that you planned happening went like exactly as it was supposed to? Like exactly how you thought it was going to?
So that's an interesting question because I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. And of course it takes growing pains. Like I didn't believe that then. It's like, why isn't it working out the way I want it to? But as I got older, I started to see more and more that like when things don't happen the way you want, it's because of, it's not supposed to, it's not your time or something else is supposed to happen in that place. And so I imagine to myself, like, if I had not, let's say I went on to be an Olympus, I wouldn't have my husband, I wouldn't have my son. And those are things that are, I feel like we're destined for my life as well. So on the, your professional and your personal life eventually intertwine with each other. Yeah. And I always think to myself, if I had gone a different route in my life, I would not have them in my life now. So, I believe that, everything really does happen when it's supposed to. And there's a why behind it when it doesn't happen.
Do you feel like it's kind of dangerous if everything worked out specifically how you planned it out?
Dangerous. So it makes me think of like that saying, like, try to tell God your plans and watch him laugh at you. Like that's how the danger is. Like when you try to force things to happen, he's going to show you, he's going to tell you, like, nope, that's not what I wanted for you right now. Like, you need to sit down, you need to chill, you need to relax. Sometimes we worry ourselves, we stress out so much about why we didn't get this job or why we didn't get this opportunity, why this person broke up with us, all kinds of things. But when you really take a moment to like really reflect, then it's like, okay, this is not happening for me right now. It's because it's not supposed to. Maybe I didn't get the job that was going to pay me $20 an hour because the job that's going to pay me $40 an hour is, 6 months down the road kind of thing. And so that's why we have to just get ourselves in a mentality. But it's tough when you're young to kind of conceptualize that, like, why is this not happening for me? Like, I'm supposed to have this. Like, I pursued this. It's supposed to happen for me right now. And it's like, sometimes that's just not how our life takes us.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, you got to love the process just because... it's the journey, not the destination. Like all those different types of quotes. I love those quotes. And I feel like it's something that I've learned that it's not specifically where you want to be, but try and enjoy the process to getting to whatever your goals are, no matter what your goals are. Absolutely. And the process and the journey, it could veer off in totally different ways, and then you could still end up in the place that you thought you were going to be, but in a much better like space and place. So like, for study abroad, I've been wanting to study abroad since like freshman year, but COVID happened. But then the fact that COVID happened, even though I wasn't able to travel, I have a whole bunch of opportunity to travel now. And then I was able to like write a book. I'm able to start this podcast, and I wouldn't have had that time to do that if we weren't in lockdown, even though lockdown and quarantine was terrible, but try to make the best out of it. But there's always a bright side of no matter what situation there is, there's always a bright side to it. I feel like it's just trying to make the bright side apparent, or look at the bright side instead of being like, oh, whoa, it's me.
Yeah, absolutely. So that also made me think of like, so when I graduated high school, my best friend, she went to ECU. She wanted me to go with her to ECU. I honestly, by the time I got to my senior year, I'll tell you, I really did not have a good standing on like what I was going to do, where I was going to go. I told you I thought I was going to be like interior fashion design, something like that at one point. So I had looked into a program at UNCG, and I didn't get into UNCG either. That was really where I wanted to go initially. My best friend wanted me to go with her to ECU. I applied there even though I didn't want to go. And as kind of like on a whim thing, I applied. I graduated from Winston-Salem State, and that's where I ultimately ended up being. And that was the best decision of my life. I wasn't very much in tune with like HBCUs then. And I think that happened for a reason.
Yeah.
Right before we started, I was actually texting with my old roommate. We have known each other over 20 years now. And the relationships that I built when I was at Winston, like, they're my foundation. And I know that I don't think I would have had that had I gone anywhere else.
Yeah.
So like I ended up there for even
happened for a reason.
It happened for a reason. And literally, like, I applied to all these other places, and I had these opportunities to go to some other places as well. But that's where I ended up being, and I think that was my destiny.
How do you handle, like, if the path isn't going in a specific way that you think it's going to be? Like, if it veers off, or if you do this opportunity that puts you in an uncomfortable situation that is like breaking you out of your comfort zone in a good way. Like, how do you handle those types of things, or how do you learn to handle those types of things?
It really is a process. And I think it also depends on different stages that you're at in your life. So for instance, like I said, I'm very much a planner. I tend not to do many things on a whim. And when I was, after I graduated from college and I was working for Wachovia, which is now Wells Fargo, so I'm dating myself a little bit. So I was working in a downtown office, like a high rise, and pushing numbers on a computer. I wasn't like interacting with people at all. And I just found myself being so like unfulfilled. And I was like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah, I can tell that you're a people person from like the first time I met you. I felt like you're a people person.
And it's crazy because I'm low key like a bit. I'm really, I feel like an introvert, but I have this extroverted person in me that loves just people. Like, I worked retail all my life, and in high school and college, and I just had to be like in settings with other people. But that's kind of how I ended up in higher ed, was like being in that job position at Wachovia after college. The only job I've ever had in my life where I wasn't working, like engaging with people. I was just in a building with my coworkers. I remember coming home one day and like just kind of reflecting on like what it was I wanted to do in college. I mean, like something I enjoyed when I was in college. And it was, I was a campus pal, which is like the ASLs here at A&T. So I helped in the summer orientations. And I just like had like this mind opening moment when I thought about that. And I was like, that's something I really love. That's something I need to pursue. I didn't even think about that as like a career option.
Yeah.
And so I started looking for jobs in higher education. And when I did that, nobody in North Carolina, none of the schools would hire me. Because I had if you looked at my resume, it was all like banking and retail and nothing about higher ed. And so I ended up starting applying to jobs in Virginia. Just whatever I could find, right? So it was a very low entry level position in the financial aid office at VCU. It was like basically like I was in the call center kind of thing. But I took it. This was the first time in my life that I really took a risk because I packed up all my stuff. I broke my lease, moved to Virginia. I took a pay cut to even go to VCU. But I knew in that moment that like I had to do this because I knew I wasn't happy in what I was doing. And I felt like I don't think I knew my purpose in that moment, but I felt like there was an itch in me that was telling me like, this is something that's going to take you where you want to be in life professionally. And so I did that. Like, and so that's why I say it really is to kind of circle back to your question. It's just a process. And sometimes you do have to be willing to kind of take that risk and step outside of your comfort zone and do something. It's just like an instinct inside of you, and you have to follow that intuition that you feel. That's going to kind of help you, move further along in your life.
I feel like for me, I'm a high risk person. It's like gambling. I feel like when I'm 21, if I go to Vegas or anything, I'm just going to be bad. So I'm going to have to like budget money and everything. But that's also
you need somebody who's really like the opposite of you when you go. Because I know when I went to Vegas, I think I spent $40 and lost it. And then I was like, oh, I'm good. I don't have to play anymore.
I'm have to only have like a certain amount of money and then have to lock my bank account and do something. I have to figure out some sort of way. But I feel like that's also why I just like go for absolutely everything. Because it's like, I don't know, I just feel it. As you were saying, like there's like the itch. Like I just have like an itch that I have to do this. So then I'm doing it no matter, like, for example, the thing I just applied to, and I found out about it like the same day that it was due. But I felt like I should apply for it, and then we'll see what happens.
And there's a reason why that happens. Like sometimes you find out about things in the 10th hour and it's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to. No, just do it. You could be the only person that applies for that program. You never know. And because you're the only one, you could get it. Like you just never know.
Yeah. When did you learn that was okay to do, or like just like follow your gut and not just be simply, or just like to be able to break out of your comfort zone? When did you figure out that was okay and it's okay to take a risk?
In true transparency, I honestly would say that I don't think I knew it in that moment, like really knew in that moment. I was probably 21, 22 at the time. So a lot of it for me has been in reflection that I realized it. But like we just talked about, I think it really is more of an intuition inside of us. And so there are very structured people in this world that are like, no, I'm not taking any risk. I'm not doing anything outside of what I feel comfortable to do. Yeah. But I think all of us, even those people who have that kind of that feeling or that state of mind, I think everybody has that intuition inside of them that lets them know when something's not right or when they should pursue something else. It's just like I think about people who are, like for instance, I always think about, for me, I could make a job making $120,000 but be miserable, or I could make a job that makes $60,000 and love what I do. Right? Something about that person that's in that high paying job but really not happy. Like something's going to be inside of them to say like, this isn't right.
Feel right.
This doesn't feel right. So I think that's what happens with a lot of us, is that you just have this feeling like there's something else I should be doing, even if I'm a little bit scared. There's something, and I think we saw this in the pandemic. Like a lot of people started to pursue these, entrepreneur ventures and things like that they would have probably never done before. Yeah. And somewhat, I guess you would say they were kind of pushed into it just because of the setting that we were on at the time. But there was still a feeling or an intuition inside of us that said, this is something that I should try. Yeah.
And there are people that are doing stuff that they love. And also with the pandemic, everybody's switching. Not everybody, but how we had to go remote. And then now a lot of people want to be able to work from home because they've been wanting that work and family life balance. But then now, since we've been shown that it's possible, now there's a big push for being able to have like split time in the office and be able to work remote.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's just something that everybody's wanted, but nobody was taking the risk to do.
Yeah.
And then now.
And didn't even realize that was an option. Yeah.
And now it's just
kind of the norm.
Yeah. Like I said, I feel like it's the norm now. Yeah. Well, what do you believe that your purpose in life is?
So for me, I know what brings me fulfillment in life. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I've worked in higher education for 14, 15 plus years, right? Never thought about that as a child, as in college or anything. Didn't even probably really realize it until I was years into this career. And I think for me, I always think about when I went to college, both my parents, they went to college, but they both ended up dropping out, going to the Air Force and finishing their degrees later. And so I never really had like a real guide when I went to college. I was really learning as I went. Yeah. I was an average student, so nobody pushed me to go into, internships and pursue professional development. Like literally, it was like I went to college. I had a great experience, and there were things that I did take advantage to some extent, but I just realized there was so much that I missed out on. And so working in this field has always been essential for me to give back to my students what I feel like I didn't always get.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, sometimes I think about like, you know, we push so much on you, but then I think about like, imagine if you were me, then like the opportunities that were not ever presented to you. Sometimes it kind of feels like a norm thing for you guys. And so for me, I mean, when I just think about my purpose and my passion, my purpose, I think really is to be a guiding light, to be a mentor to my students. It gives me true fulfillment. Like I just get a high off of like watching you guys grow and develop. And so it's not even always so much about all the things we're telling you guys to do. I just love to see like where you guys start when you come in as freshmen and how you grow and develop when you get ready to go out into the world after you graduate. My purpose and my passion kind of intertwine with each other. I think I'm supposed to be in higher education. I'm supposed to be a mentor to my students and to provide, you know, that support system, because everybody doesn't get that. You know, there are 13,000 students on this campus, and there are a good majority that are walking around very lost because they don't have that additional assistance just to help them maneuver around sometimes. And so that is really, really like truly important to me, like in my role and what I do. My job is not a 9 to 5. Like I don't clock out at 5 o'clock, unfortunately, you know, and kind of like what you said, with the COVID thing, like it has given me the opportunity now. Like I do have meet with my kids, you know, in the late evening sometimes, because I know that I still need to have this engagement and this interaction and, you know, provide these supports. And so, and that allows me to do that. Like, you know, also being a mother, I've got to pick my baby up at 5, but like, let me set this meeting up at 6:30 so that we can still, you know, catch up and see what's going on, those kind of things.
I feel like that like bleeds through like your passion for what you do. I feel like that bleeds through, and that's why everybody loves you. Did you ever feel yourself like losing track of yourself or your purpose, like any specific moment?
To some extent, I do. So the thing is, I started out, like I said, I started out working at VCU in the financial aid office, and ended up coming to A&T a year later. I was still in the financial aid office, but that's when I got into scholarships. And so really started taking a liking into scholarships, and ultimately ended up getting my master's because I knew that I was going to want to, you know, tier up in my positions. So got my master's. And for a moment, because my master's degree is in counseling. So originally I wanted to do my master's in higher education. And ultimately, there was a program at UNCG. They have it's a counseling program, but with a concentration in higher ed. And so ultimately, I ended up selecting the program here at A&T, which is more heavily like mental health based counseling. And I took some like elective classes in that higher education part. So when I was going through that, there was a moment where I thought I may start going into counseling, like being in a counseling center on a college campus. And my program let me know, like, nope, that's not what I want to do. Like, I knew that I still needed to be an advocate and be of service to my students, but I did not believe once I went through my program that I wanted to be in that setting. It's a lot more heavy than you think about. And so personally, I feel like I use my degree every single day. Especially working with high achieving students. There's a lot of pressure on students in the honors program, and just, you know, students in general. But so I still use my skill set from my master's degree, even if I'm not working directly in a counseling center. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's one part of my career that I thought I was about to transition into another area. But ultimately, number one, I love working with scholarships. I love also being able, like, our honors weekend and meeting the new freshmen and then being able to, you know, call somebody and say, hey, you're getting a full ride scholarship. Like, that just is so fulfilling.
You're
just
a
know that you're
person.
Yeah. I mean, you're making somebody's dream. Like, people dream about going. There are some kids who have been dreaming about coming to A&T since they were 5 years old, and being able to have a full ride scholarship. So like, I love that aspect of my career that so I'm glad that I stayed in the scholarship atmosphere, even when I transitioned out of financial aid. That was something that was a little scary for me too, coming into honors, because I didn't really know exactly what that was going to look like or what that was going to feel like. And it's been just, in terms of, the ladder of my career, like it's just continued to be more and more fulfilling. And so, yeah, I think I answered your question. I feel like I'm going off on a tangent a little bit.
I like it.
Yeah.
Just hearing like all your like mind on everything. Because this also opens up it opens my mind as to how you like act. Like everybody treats you with like the utmost respect. Everybody goes to you for stuff. And like, I don't know. I feel like everybody that's going to listen to this that knows you is going to be like, whoa, this makes a lot of sense. But I was trying to balance that, like what you wanted to do and then what other people wanted to do or wanted you to do or pushed you to do.
Yeah. So, luckily I haven't really had like a major push. My mom, of course, at one point in time, she wanted me to go. Well, so I'll tell you before that, she used to always tell me I was going to be a lawyer, because anything that we talked about, like I debated.
Oh, that's,
and like like I was just like proving my point, like hands down. And plus on the side, I'm like I think I've seen every single Law and Order episode in life. Like I'm just a diehard. But yeah, she thought I was going to be a lawyer. So she used to tell me all the time, like, I don't know why you just don't go to law school. And then one point she was like, wanted me to try the Air Force. She was like, why don't you go to the Air Force and they'll pay for your schooling. She never did it like very, very forcefully, but it was always just like a little innuendo. But for the most part, my family has really supported me in what I've done. Like I said, I when I took that risk and I packed up and broke my lease to move to Virginia, like my grandmother paid the fee to have me move up there. I think that was one of the last times she gave me money. And then after that, anytime like I had to pay her back kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, they've always been very supportive. And so I think that's been comforting, because I know there are some, we see it here. Like, it's like I've had students who come and they're like engineering majors. And then after their first year, they're like, that's not what I want to do. Like, I really wanted to do like journalism, or I wanted to be, chemistry or whatever, what it may be. And it's like, it's because, someone said you need to be an engineer because it's going to make the most money, and that's not always really what you want to do. So, it's comforting to know that I did not have to necessarily go through that very heavily.
That's good. And I also like that, or I also recognize how you help people get through like that. But for example, like switching majors, because as you said, a lot of people come into college, if they don't know what they want to do, or they just do something because somebody else told them that they want to do something, but then they realize that's not what they want to do. They're actually interested in this aspect, and having that support system. I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed through college is that everybody doesn't have the same support system. Everybody doesn't come from the same background or has the same privilege as me, which is also something that I'm realizing. Like I knew, but like seeing it in my face is a totally like different thing.
Yeah.
But it's just cool to see how you're able, like people like you. I feel like that's like the main thing about A&T. We have people like you that are able to support us and be able to give us that support system when we want to make a change, or when we want to do this, or when we want to do that. And I know both people that you're mentioning in the thing.
No, and I mean, it's very true. And for me, like, and that's kind of like, the quote you started off with, because I think that, what our plan is sometimes, and it's okay for those things to change. Like, you don't have to do. And the other thing that I've heard, in past times is that, oh, well, I've already invested X amount of years into this. So, I probably should just finish it. Yeah. And it's like, if that's not what you want to do, like,
not gonna be happy.
Yeah, be okay with change. Be okay with not being okay. And I'm always fully supportive of you guys wanting to, try something different or pursue, a different career path, because ultimately, this is your life, and you want to make the very most out of it. And sometimes if it may take you a little bit longer to get there, but at the end of the day, it has to be your decision. It can't be something that I make for you or your parents make for you. Like I'm always encouraging you guys to like reflect. Like reflection, is so important. And it's something I wish I had known more about or done more when I was younger. Because if you really take time and you just reflect about life, the things that you want, the things that you enjoy and love, like it will come to you without a doubt, and you'll know exactly what you're supposed to do in that moment. But I think I say we collectively, like I think we just as a population, like we allow so many other narratives, outside voices to come in and speak to us, and it's like, and it gets in our head and it messes with us, and then we have trouble making that decision for ourselves.
And I like bridging. Like whenever I have like an opportunity or something, I feel like one of the reasons I just go for everything is one, support system, and then two, I feel like I can bridge whatever I'm doing. I feel like I can connect it to something else that I want to do. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, because I'm also very logical and strategic, like a very strategic thinker.
Yes.
So it's like, I'll think about how I can connect veterinary medicine, all I'm doing in veterinary medicine, with this podcast, and how I'm going to be able to use this podcast when I get to be a vet, and then how I'm going to be able to connect that with stuff that I'm doing with the NFL now, and then just random, like, even though it's like long connections, mm-hmm. I just try and connect it so then in my head it makes sense, no matter what anybody says, whether it's like, why do you have an entrepreneurship minor when you're an animal science major and trying to be a vet? It's just like, I want to do it.
You can do it all.
Yeah, you can do it.
And you're right. There is so much opportunity to bridge different things. Like, it's interesting that you mentioned the NFL thing, because this girl I went to college with, she was a few years ahead of me, but she actually has a background in counseling. And a couple of years ago, she started working as a mental health counselor for the Panthers. And that was not something that they had ever had before. Probably never even thought of, but you hear more about like the CTE?
CTE, yeah.
Like, so you're seeing more and more that like that kind of position is needed in the NFL world or in sports in general. So there's always opportunities, no matter what your field of study or your background is, to merge into different areas and create those opportunities.
Yeah, and especially if you like sports, and then you're able to get an opportunity within sports, connecting what you want to do, and then you have passion for sports. So then
it all comes together.
A beautiful marriage between different industries and stuff. What do you feel like the best way to find who you are and appreciate yourself, love yourself? What do you think is the best way to do that? Or how did you do that?
So I'll speak from a personal and professional stance. I did have a really good mentor my senior year of college who just kind of gave me motivation. At one point, I was also going to pursue like HR. My senior year, I started thinking about doing human resource management.
You're such a people person.
But that was influence from her. But outside of that, I mean, I had a good mentor. So I believe that mentorship is always important, professional and personal. So like my aunt, she is my mom's sister. She is like one of my closest friends. Like, she's really like a best friend to me. So on the personal side, like, she's somebody that I've been able to always go to. If there's even her being family, it's no bias. Like, she will give it to me straight. And then also having that professional mentorship. So I've been lucky enough to have really, really amazing supervisors in my roles that have wanted me to build myself up. They do not want me to be stagnant in what I do. And so I'm very appreciative from that standpoint. Outside of that, I'd say from kind of a subsidiary personal, I used to journal a lot. So like probably from like when I was like 10 years old, I started journaling. And literally, if somebody wanted to know if I ever had to like prove where I was, what I was doing, that like I used to literally journal every day, and I used to be very detailed about my life. So yeah, you could definitely like investigate my entire life. But it was very freeing for me, because like I said, I'm a little bit of an introvert. I would never be the person, even like I always think about when in college, one of my friends, she like put sugar in her ex-boyfriend's tank or something. I could never do stuff like that. I always thought about it, but I could never
actually go through it.
Yeah, but my journal was like my place to like vent things out and just get my frustrations and free myself. So that was something that I always utilized when I was younger. And I've just really, like I said, I've really put a lot of like time into reflection for myself. So I'll say I learned, and this is kind of from a personal standpoint in a relationship, like I'm a giving person. So you know that, right?
Yeah.
And so even in my relationships when I was younger, I gave so much of myself that I put other people before me. But one of the things that I learned, my mentor, my very first class that I took in my master's program was from an ethics course. And my professor had this quote, and it was like, you're only as good a counselor as you know yourself. And what he meant by that was, if you are not taking good care of you, you cannot be any good to anybody else. And so that really hit home for me. And it's something that I've kind of like guided my life by since my mid-20s, that I have to make sure that I'm good, that I'm giving myself my own self-care. Because if I don't take care of myself, how can I be of service to anybody else or anything else? And so I would say that's really been my guiding light to, ensure that I keep that motivation, that I keep, wanting to pursue things and really just pushing myself forward.
I like that. And it's also cool seeing how, like, advice that you give me is, like, from, like, a mentor standpoint, like, impacts me even now, and just even from freshman year up until now, and all the mentors that I've gotten over the time, and just how, like, the stuff that you wish that you knew then, and then being able to, like, pass that down. And that's also something that I like doing. So that's why all mentorship opportunities and everything, I'm like, I want to do this, so then I can try and give back to the next generation, even, or people that are just like a few years younger than me.
And it really does impact you. I mean, you think, because sometimes hearing things from me, but hearing things from, and that's why I do like to, you're right, I do like to do those things with you guys. And I push you guys to do that for others, because that's, like I said, that's how I got into wanting to do this. Like, I, as a sophomore or junior, was telling these freshmen, like, hey, I was just you. And so I really want to help you out, because I don't want you to have to go through what I went through. And it's impactful for them when they hear from somebody who's been through what they've been through directly, kind of thing. So, yeah.
It's fun. I love mentorship. And thank you for being a wonderful mentor. I don't know if it's been
I don't even realize that, but thank you.
Everybody talks about it. But how do you want to help students to grow themselves? I feel like that's been like that's what you explained is like your purpose.
Yeah. So, we have a big thing that we ask you guys. A lot of our themes is about, like, what's your why, and understanding your, and I hear from you guys a lot of times, it's like, I don't know I think I know what my purpose is, or, like, what I mentioned to you, like, when we do the little survey and get y'all's little bios for your press releases your freshman year. But then those things, like, it's like, I didn't really want to do that. I was just kind of putting something down because I knew I had to say something. You can't say, oh, I don't know. But it's like, for me, it's okay for you to have that thought, and it's also okay for you not to necessarily know what like, I'm really okay with that. The purpose, for more than anything, is to just start to understand more about who you are. It's self-awareness at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's not always about necessarily defining exactly what your purpose is. Like I said, I probably was in my mid to late 20s before I probably really truly realized what my exact purpose was in life, at least from a professional standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. So when you guys are going through these 4 years of college, it's really more about just starting to understand more of who you, like, we have no idea truly. 17 plus, we think we know who we don't. I think that, and that's why I'm also a big advocate personally for higher education, is because I know some people say, especially in the world we live in now, like, college isn't for everybody. Sometimes you can just go straight into tech, and, but I also believe when you come to college, like, it teaches you so much about who you are inside. And so that's another reason why I'm, like, a big advocate for higher education, because I think it's a learning process. Like, you get out into this world and it is the real deal. Yeah. Like, and I think that you have the opportunities while you're in college to have somewhat of shelter and structure, but it's okay because you need that time to develop yourself, to grow yourself, to learn about relationships, both personally and professionally. You learn about who your real friends are. You learn you don't need a big circle. The older you get, the smaller your circle truly gets, because you find out which people are really there to support you, who are just tagging along for the opportunity that it may present, those kind of things. So it's really all about growth and development for you guys.
How has your purpose changed since you became a mother? I feel like that, like, when I look off into the distance, it's going to be a very long time. Like, when I'm a dad, I feel like my purpose may change a little bit. Like, I'm all go, do this now. But I feel like when I'm a father, or even like marriage, that type of thing, I feel like that's going to make me slow down a little bit, and maybe my purpose may change a little bit.
So that's a very interesting question, and it's something that I find myself kind of pondering, especially now with me, getting ready to have my second child. I don't know that it changes my purpose, but it does change the way that it changes the way that I feel available to you all. So because I have to prioritize, and my husband tells me this all the time. Like sometimes I'm working on, programming for you guys, or reports and different things, and sending out emails in the wee hours, and he's like, your office hours are 9 to 5, and I'm like, no, they're really not. And so it's a priority thing, and so like I'm already thinking about like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be here in the fall semester, and what are my students going to do, and because at the end of the day, like I'm a mom to 1, 2, soon to come. But I also feel like I'm a mom to like 80 other kids. Like, like I feel like y'all are grown, growing adults, but you're my babies. And so for me, being a mother has transitioned my life in terms of like just really having to understand priorities. And sometimes I do have to put being a mother first. So like sometimes it just means when I get home, I can't go straight into doing additional work, or I can't have that 6 o'clock meeting sometimes. Maybe I have to bump things to the next day, or, have my meeting a little bit later so that I can spend time with my son, those kind of things. And it just, for me, it shifts around when I'm able. Like I don't have that flexibility to just always be here every night late. It's tough. I will tell you, like the more I think about it, I look back a couple of years ago when, before I was a mom and I could just, come and go as I please kind of thing. And it's like, got to pick him up by a certain time. And so it causes a little bit more in terms of like just having to be on the go more. But that's also me. I put a lot of pressure on myself to be able to be everything to everybody. But for me, it's just prioritizing. And because working in higher education and being, accessible to you all, it's part of it's a part of me. And so I have to figure out how best to structure that around. Now, I'll tell you from another colleague of mine, she got married she's a faculty, but she got married a couple of years ago, and then like she popped like 3 out, like back to back to back, right? So what she found was that she was not able to be like in a classroom setting anymore. So she, teaches remotely. And that way that allows her to have accessibility for, being there with her kids, but she can still do what she loves. So it's just kind of, sometimes you just have to, work. If it's still something that you're passionate about,
you got to kind of like mold it.
You have to mold it into how you can make it work for you. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like even though it's not the same, like with my little brother and little sister, at least now, or like through the past like few years, I feel like they're like even though they're not like actually my kids, I feel like they're kind of my kids. Like I care about them like that. And it's just trying to make sure that I have time to do all the stuff that I want to do, but then also trying to help them with all their stuff and give them opportunities. Yeah. It's like my podcast, trying to teach them how to like edit the podcast and do all this different type of stuff, like what classes to take, or like AP or DE classes, course, like all that different type of stuff. I don't know. It's just, at least recently, I feel like that's something that's like hitting me hard. Mm-hmm. Like they look up to me and I want to be able to pour into them. Yeah. Even though I want to pour into my passions and everything. Absolutely. Right now and everything that I'm doing. But I feel like when I have kids, it's going to be that times like a million. But I'm still looking forward to it. I really am.
It's a beautiful part of life. It is. I will tell you, yes, you have years and years and years down the road. But it is as crazy and hectic as it can be. It's such a fulfilling moment to watch somebody that you literally, are raising into adulthood. It's amazing.
Sounds amazing.
And then there's the crazy part of it, but
it all goes together.
It all goes together, yes.
How is being like the daddy coordinator fulfilling your purpose, do you feel?
How is it fulfilling my purpose?
Yeah.
So you know what I love about it, and I give shout outs and kudos to Dr. Knipes, because she has really allowed the program to grow heavily. So I just kind of think about where I've been here since 2008. When the program was a merit program, had 400 plus kids, right? Yes, it was a tier program. And it was strictly, there was no enrichment attached to it. Yeah. The kids didn't even know other people were dowdies. Yeah. And so the way the program has just transitioned over the year, and like the tight knit and the bonding that you guys have, I think that it fulfills my purpose in allowing me to just see the shift and the changes that we've been able to make, and how the foundation of the program has really impacted you all and your college experience. So I think that for me, my fulfillment from that comes from you all's fulfillment, which you guys are getting out of being in the program.
Which is a lot. Everybody loves it. And what do you believe is next in your journey? Are you going to be the dowdy coordinator forever?
I don't think so, right? And that's a little scary.
Please don't leave while we're here. After you guys are done with school.
So I do see myself, my husband always tells me, he's like, if I get $1 million, are you still going to work there? And I'm like, probably. I don't see myself, I see myself continuing to grow in higher education. This is a really tough question for me, honestly. And it does, like, Dr. Knipes asks me this all the time, right? I don't know. And that's a little scary. And it's something, though, I think that I have to think about. But I do see myself continuing. I love being in the honors program. I love being in scholarships. And so there's a number of opportunities that could present itself. And I think that I'm always open to whatever those opportunities may be when it's my right time. And so right now I'm supposed to be right here where I'm at. I don't foresee myself going anywhere anytime soon, but like I said, I'm 15 years in. I have another 15 years before I can retire. So there is more than enough opportunities that could present themselves over the next decade plus.
And it's all part of the journey.
It's all part of the journey.
But I wrap up every episode with a tradition. Ask 2 questions.
Okay.
Everybody says that they're really deep, and they're like, "Why do you ask these?" But first question: what are your 3 things that you live by, or your 3 keys to life?
Ooh, that is deep. And I should have known this because I checked out some of your other podcasts before, but I forgot about these 2 questions. 3 things that I live by. Faith. So I am very much, I consider myself to be more spiritual than religious. But I truly believe that my faith is what gets me through every single day. My family, I would be nothing without them. And that's both immediate and distant. So my parents, my grandmother, my aunts, my husband, my son, all of those things impact my life. And that's something that I truly, truly live by, is having that foundation of my family. And the third one is something that I live by. Probably my purpose, so that my purpose is what gives me drive every single day and allows me to continue to do what I do on a daily basis. Yeah.
I love it. And then second one, even deeper. If you could have a conversation with a 12-year-old you, what would it be about, and what advice would you give, and why?
To truly love yourself. I just think about this. I always think about these personal moments in my life. I think about this moment when I was like, I'm going to go a little higher than 12. So when I was like 14 or 15, and my boyfriend was about to break up with me, and we were in the backyard, and I was like in his lap, just bawling tears. And my mom made me come in the house, and she was like, "No, I'm sorry. He didn't break up with me. I think I told him something. He was mad at me or something." But my mom brings me in the house, and she was like, "You need to get it together." She was like, "No, you are only 14. This isn't the end of your life, And she was like, "No man should ever have you in your lap crying like that, So like, I just think about that, like really truly understanding the value and loving yourself. And that's why for me, I think I tell my son I love him like 100 times a day. And I think as a child, you probably don't realize it then, but hearing those kind of words, hearing that encouragement is so impactful as you grow. And especially for women, how you get treated by men when you get older. So just that value of like love and self-esteem as a 12-year-old, I would really like tell myself, like, love yourself so, so much, because it will move mountains for you as you get older, both in professional and personal aspirations.
Love it. But thank you so much for joining me on
Thank
this.
Thank you for having me. I was so nervous, but it was actually, like you said, it was more conversational.
I told you, this time just flies. And thank you for pouring so much of your like time, effort, energy, all your soul into me. And then also everybody that I talk to that knows you and everything, and everybody else in general, because I know you pour into everybody else. But anything that you would like to promote, shameless plugs, things you have going on that you'd like to say something about, or last words that you'd like to leave the audience with?
So I don't have anything to plug, but I just want to continue to encourage everyone just to pursue your passions, even if it's outside of the scope of what it is that you think you're supposed to be doing or somebody's telling you to do. Follow your intuition, follow your heart, and it will all come together. Whatever your plan is will ultimately happen when it's supposed to happen, and how you want it to happen.
Beautiful. But thank you so much again. Be on the lookout for more episodes, and also stay tuned for all the special guests that I'll have on in the future. I'll continue to have amazing conversations with incredibly dope people that I've met throughout my many adventures through life. Also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Through Jeremiah's Eyes for updates and more content. And it would be amazing if you could also like, share, and subscribe to my podcast so that you don't miss an episode and we can continue to grow this community. Thank you so much for your time, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode for another look through my eyes. See you soon.